Hello, fellow Destiny players. This is Jim P, aka Pyrolyzer, and I have a question for you. Do you play Crucible? Are you bored with running the same boring loadouts over and over? Want to completely turn your Crucible world upside down? If so, you need to pay attention because I have the solution. Okay, well, it's not really my solution, and it probably won't turn your world upside down, but I've tried it and has paid some pretty big dividends for me. What I'm referring to is cycling or rotating your loadouts. This was based on a method created by Birds from the Crucible Radio podcast. You can find him on Twitter at FamousBirds. On episode 60 of their podcast, he unveiled a method he uses to get out of a Crucible funk and get some competitive juices flowing. By doing this, it really forces you to pull some old stuff out of the vault, so to speak, and see if you can make it work. You should check out that podcast, and I'll put the link in the description, to hear his commentary and specifics on his suggestions. I won't steal any more of his thunder here because all the credit goes to him. But in short, he basically outlines a 9-day schedule designed to make you try different weapons and armor, and especially stuff that you normally wouldn't use in PvP. It all starts with a spreadsheet. You can download your own copy from crucibleradio.com for starters. If you examine this spreadsheet, it's fairly straightforward. In the design section of the sheet on the left, the class rotation is filled out for you. You simply pick a starting subclass, a primary weapon, secondary weapon, and heavy weapon. Once selected, the rest of the rotation for those items is filled out for you automatically. On the right side of the sheet is a log. You simply follow the formula given from the design side of the sheet, and you pick from your available gear what you want to use that day according to the rotation given. What's included in the log, but not necessarily in the design section, is a choice of an exotic armor piece. In some respect with this method, you still have the power to choose which weapons that you use, but the benefit comes from trying something you normally don't run and forcing yourself to be okay with it, or learning how to adapt to it. Instructions are included in the sheet by Birds on how to properly set everything up. It's a breeze to do, so no worries there. Let's take a look at how my rotation ended up. Okay, so before I go too much further, I figured I should lay down a reference for everyone. My go-to is a Voidwalker Warlock. It's been number one for me since launch day, even for the campaign, however short it was. Before launch, something about throwing those purple balls of death from your hands really attracted me, but I digress. In year one, though, I rarely played Crucible. I dabbled here and there and didn't get much into it, and as year one progressed and moved into year two, I picked up the pace a little bit and tried it a little more, but over the past 8 months, I've really played a lot more Crucible. I've really enjoyed playing Iron Banner once my level has been high enough, and Control has typically been my favorite game type, although Clash has been a very close second. For reference, I've only played 756 games total on my Warlock, according to DestinyTracker.com, and I'm not sure how far back that goes. I think I've done trials no more than 5 weekends ever, and just enough games to finish all the bounties. I'm pretty average with a lifetime KD just under 1.1. But my ELO score is like 1070, which is not very good, according to what I hear around the community. But again, I'm just letting you know kind of where my reference in history is, setting the stage for the rotation. So my current go-to loadout, I usually run a Pulse or a Mida, Sniper, a machine gun, and nothing manacles for my exotic. Rest of the gear is set up really for max intellect and discipline, very low if not zero strength, and maximizing armor and recovery with low agility. Although lately I have been messing around with that and upping the agility and recovery lately and sacrificing armor. A Hunter is my least played character. Titan is somewhere in the middle, just so you know kind of where I stand in terms of the different subclasses and classes. With regards to playstyle, I've mostly been the type of player who likes to stay back and support rather than up in your face or moving around the map a lot. It's maybe too much information here, but I thought it's important relative to my further commentary. Note that I didn't do exactly what the spreadsheet recommended in terms of getting your KD to 1.0 before moving on. I just tried to play close to the same number of games with each loadout, and I wanted to see what happened. For starters, I would say that this rotation definitely challenged me to think a lot more about how to approach the game with each loadout, which is exactly what the podcast talks about. With my go-to, I know what I'm going to do, and I settle into that quickly. Usually, it's waiting for enemies to come to me or try to assist teammates from a distance or check sniper lanes and try to pick them off if I can, especially in Clash. With Rift or Control, clearly I still have to move around in order to help the team as best I can. But with each loadout change, I had to completely rethink how to play. That includes movement, aiming, and controller actions, even where to place grenade throws. Think about trip mine or lightning grenades. As a warlock, I don't use those a lot, so when I was testing loadouts with those grenades, I really had to think about where to throw them. Some places it's obvious. But you really have to think about these things simply because of the different responses from each weapon, the different perks from your armor, or other class-specific abilities. So let's take armor, for example. In one specific case, one of the bigger challenges was adapting to the perks of whatever exotic armor I was using pretty much in real time. But the big takeaway for me, in hindsight, was evaluating now how to pair the right exotic armor with a playstyle and or weapons to get a successful combination, which I wouldn't have given much thought had I not been doing this rotation, simply because I always settle into my go-to warlock. Of course, some exotics are pretty obvious, like with the Obsidian with a Voidwalker or the Acleophage Symbiote with a Gunslinger. Those are pretty much a given on how to use those and what you do with those. But when it came to selecting Radiant Dance Machines as the exotic armor for a Hunter class, it was literally the first time I had ever used those boots in either PvE or PvP. And suddenly, now my aiming was way out of whack because I was strafing faster than I'm used to, and my muscle memory was totally confused. As a result, I had below average success in my personal stats when I used those boots. So I may not use that exact loadout from that day in the schedule again, but it doesn't mean I wouldn't necessarily use those boots again, at least to try them out. Looking back at that loadout, I realized maybe a better weapon with those would be an auto or a pulse rifle rather than a scout. Using a scout rifle and trying to land those shots while strafing back and forth a little faster, again, it was confusing my muscle memory. So maybe I just need to play more with those boots and retrain my muscle memory. And I think that's kind of the essence of what the loadout rotation is about. In that moment, the loadout was a little tricky for me, but it did make me pause to think about a more optimal loadout if I were to use those boots again. So all in all, I didn't have much issue with switching characters in terms of, moving around maps or jumping and stuff. I had played enough on all three classes in various times. The big difference in jumps, for the most part, wasn't a problem. I know everyone has their preferred and who the best jump is and which one is the best, but for me, it was just a matter of, in terms of this rotation, I didn't really have to adapt that much, so that wasn't too much of an issue. But if someone didn't have three different characters, or they had one of all three classes, they had three Titans on their three characters, or they seldom played beyond one of their primary classes, I would expect something like that could be a huge learning curve. From a weapons point of view, I had some prizes and some confirmations. The biggest surprise was that I had a lot more fun with fusion rifles and shotguns than I thought I would. Being a sniper at heart, I was doubtful, but ultimately I found it just as rewarding to deliver opposing guardians some buckshot to the face or vaporize them as a temporary member of Voop Nation as it was to get that prime headshot with my long gun. The other surprise was not only did I have fun not using a sniper, but I found that I could be successful with these other weapons in terms of stats and helping my team, which I didn't think I could do just because I didn't have the skill set and practice down with those other specials. On the downside, rotating weapons did confirm for me why I don't use hand cannons or sidearms ever. I typically don't have fun with those because I just don't do well with those weapons. Yes, and that means not even with the last word. I'm pretty sure I'm using it right. I just don't do well with hand cannons. But during the rotation, being open-minded and giving them a fair shake, things still didn't really pan out for me as well as other weapons I felt. So until I do another rotation, maybe after I get settled into Rise of Iron a little more, I'll probably stay away from hand cannons and sidearms for now. So in summary, Let's look at the good and the bad, and maybe the ugly. The good is I feel that now with this rotation I can be better than before at evaluating what can make a good loadout. I really surprised myself with the weapon choices, and now I realize I don't have to and shouldn't necessarily just settle into a sniper all the time. I really had fun trying new weapons and realized I could be successful with a variety of them and not just my usual. I did get a little lucky that the Empyrean Bellicose was for sale by Tentacle Face, and I was able to use this during the rotation. Otherwise, that might have had a different result with my Titan, but I really might not take that helmet off my Titan. I realized I could really use it to throw off enemies very easy if I suddenly just stopped in the middle of the air while skating toward them with my Titan. But and really this rotation method really is a great tool to use after weapons patches. We try to read the weapons patch notes and read between the lines and kind of say, hey, what's going on? And then people, especially the high-end community members, really get out there and start analyzing the changes and let everybody know, hey, here's what's going on with these new weapon tunes. And, this is what you need to try. Throw this one out. You don't need this one anymore. But really using this method, I think, is a great tool to help you personally learn how to adapt to those changes as well. So after weapon tuning patches come out, try the rotation. That's really my suggestion to you. I think from the bad side of the rotation, there are some weapons that I hear talked about a lot as being really solid in PvP, such as the PDX 45 and the DIS 47 Scout, but those didn't really work out as well for me as I thought they would. Again, it could just be unfamiliarity with those weapons since I don't use them that often. I also found out just looking at the statistics that there really is no consistent correlation in the matches I played between your personal stats and win percentage. It's very straightforward. If the whole team does well, then you're likely to win. If you're a solo player and you go in solo queuing, it's probably not unexpected that you're not communicating very well with the teammates, and even if your personal stats are great, it doesn't automatically mean that you're going to chalk up one in the win column. I really didn't execute many of the subclass supers in a manner that seemed to work for me, so I think I would need to spend a lot more time with those. For example, I feel like I died to Blade Dancers and Strikers a lot, but when I used those subclasses, I didn't feel very effective at all. So again, it's unfamiliar and just need more practice, I think, with those. What I categorized as ugly, if we're going through the good, the bad, and the ugly, is it really, in spite of being open-minded during this, I'm still not yet ready to embrace the hand cannons or the sidearms for PvP. I'd probably still use hand cannons in PvE, but really sidearms are just not my thing. I'm just not really comfortable using those at all and really don't like them. And I used vastly different archetypes of scouts during this rotation, but neither really stood out as useful. So I'm still kind of stuck in the mindset if your scout isn't a MIDA multi-tool, it might not be worth using, and I know some people will disagree with that, but if I'm using a scout in PvP, I'm going with a MIDA, and I think there's really no two ways about it. So all in all, a lot of good stuff can come out of this rotation. I highly recommend it. Really big shout out to Birds. He was really supportive on Twitter and wanted to hear about this and wanted to see what was going on and was interested in the feedback. So I hope he checks out this video. But I would recommend giving it a try. It can help you as a player. It might surprise yourself in some cases. But hey, anyway, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. If you have any comments, I'd love to hear them. If you try this, send Birds the feedback. It's his thing. I'm just one person using it. But really all the credit again goes to him. Take care, guys.